Chapter 2 of The Lord of the Rings, Shadow of the Past. Now, we pick up where we left off with, Bilbo has left, and as the years pass by, the hobbits continue to talk about his disappearance. Frodo continues to celebrate Bilbo's birthday every year, and he tells everyone he doesn't think Bilbo's dead, and they're like, okay, well, if he's not dead, where is he? And I don't know. And Frodo was right, obviously. Bilbo is still alive. He'd be at the point where we're going to get when Frodo starts his quest. It's been 17 years since Bilbo left. In the movies, they don't have that time yet, but there's a good reason for that. But anyway, Frodo, of course, lives alone, but he still has all these friends who are all of his cousins. Like, you've got Folco Boffin, Meriadoc Brandybuck, Peregrine Took. And these are all great-great-grandchildren of the old Took. Of course, Frodo is his great-grandson of the old Took. But it says, elves who seldom walked in the Shire. There were rumors of strange things. Elves who seldom walked in the Shire could now be seen passing westward through the woods in the evening, passing and not returning. But they were leaving Middle-earth and were no longer concerned with its troubles. There were, however, dwarves on the road in unusual numbers. The ancient east-west road ran through the Shire to its end at the Grey Havens, and dwarves had always used it on their way to the mines in the Blue Mountains. They were the hobbits' chief source of news. And the news they bring is not good news. Now, remember from the Silmarillion, the elves are sailing from the Grey Havens, so they're traveling to the Grey Havens, and they're taking ships, and they are sailing to the Undying Lands, which at this point is in another dimension. And only elves can get there by taking the straight road, which is this invisible, road or whatever that they can take, but only they can, and they can get to the Undying Lands. The news the dwarves are bringing, not good news. The world there's war. Sauron has returned to his Dark Tower, and strange beings are seen crossing the borders of the Shire. Now, Mordor, of course, as you know, is in the east of Middle-earth here. And people always thought that the reason why Tolkien placed Mordor there, because it was some kind of allegory for the USSR or whatever, which Tolkien, would say, that's not how my mind works, that's not it at all. And that, so, its placing in the east is for the story, and the reason why Sauron chose the east, now, in the Silmarillion, the Dark Power was in the north, but those lands are gone now. Sauron was trying to get away from the Númenóreans, who were coming to Middle-earth and establishing havens and stuff there, colonizing Middle-earth, and he's trying to get away as far as possible. And so that's why he placed it there, and that's why Tolkien, for the story, places it there. It has nothing to do with the USSR back then. Mordor is not Russia. And some people would even think that Isengard is somehow Nazi Germany, and no, that's not it at all. Saruman is not Hitler. Saruman was created by Tolkien right before the war broke out. But anyway, Sam's at the Green Dragon, and he's having a conversation with the son of the old miller from the last chapter, and talking about all this stuff that's going on. And obviously Ted Sandyman doesn't believe in any of this stuff. And Sam mentions that his cousin Hal had seen basically a tree walking. And Ted Sandyman's like, oh, well, he's always saying he's seen things. There's nothing there. Now, is this an Ent, or is this a giant? Because Sam mentions that he says tree men, these giants, one bigger than a tree, was seen up away beyond the North Moors. So, is this just a regular giant, and they're describing that he's as big as a tree, or is this an actual Ent? I've always taken this to be that this is an Ent. So we kind of have a foreshadowing of them here. But anyway, they end their conversation. Sam is going to bag in to work in the garden because he took over for his father. And it is at this point that Gandalf returns. Now, he had been visiting Frodo off and on, but it's been over 9 years at this point since Frodo has seen him. And they start talking, and then, they go to bed, and the next day, Frodo asks him about what what he was talking about yesterday. And Gandalf starts talking to him about the Rings of Power. And, of course, in this conversation, he mentions Saruman. Which is an Old English word meaning device, design, contrivance, or art. The word Seru. His name in Eldarin is, of course, Curunir. And like Gandalf, he is one of the Maiar that has been sent to Middle-earth in the guise of an old man to go to Middle-earth and try to help the people of Middle-earth against Sauron. And, of course, this is where we get the big reveal that Bilbo's ring is the One Ring. Gandalf throws it in the fire, and little letters appear on there. And so he briefly tells Frodo about how the ring had come to him. And Frodo is, of course, surprised when he hears about the story about Gollum and how he's even remotely connected to hobbits. But that's what it is. Gollum was a hobbit. Now, it mentions him and his real name is Smeagol, and then now, in the movies, they pronounce it Smeagol, but that is not how you pronounce that. There is an accent over the E. And that means something, all right? And, of course, his friend, Déagol. And you know the story about how, Déagol found the ring, and then Smeagol wanted it, and Déagol wouldn't give it to him, so Smeagol killed him and became Gollum. And he was driven out. His family drove him out of their hobbit hole and cursed him, and so he went up into the Misty Mountains and there began to transform into this slimy creature, Gollum. And, of course, Gandalf says, oh yeah, I had help from a friend named Aragorn. We went and we found Gollum. This is how I found out all this information. Gollum, of course, lies, so you kind of have to turn the words around a little bit. He takes the truth and kind of twists it, so you got to twist it back in order to get the actual truth of what happened. And, of course, Smeagol and Déagol are Old English words as well. Déagol means secret or hidden, and Smeagol is from the word smigel, which means, it was in here. Where did I see that? Yeah. A burrow. Place to creep into. Because Gollum used to like doing that kind of stuff. And, of course, he crept into the Misty Mountains. Now, Smeagol did call Déagol my love. This is a form of address to a friend or companion. It has nothing to do with them being lovers or anything. I know some people may try to read that into it, just like they did with Frodo and Sam, but it's not there. Well, of course, Gollum left his hole to go search for Bilbo. He never made it to the Shire. That's why, which I had forgotten all about, and so what I said in the last video, I was wrong. It was not Gollum that would have killed Frodo's parents. It was an accident. Gandalf even says Gollum tried, but only made it as far as the Great River, so he never got anywhere close to the Shire. And of course, Gollum eventually came to Mordor and was tortured. Now, Frodo, of course, like in the movie, this happens here, not like it does in the movie, where Gandalf tells Frodo about, you were meant to have it, Bilbo was meant to find it, that it wasn't the maker of the ring that was causing this to happen. There's another power at work. And, of course, Frodo's like, well, Bilbo should have killed Gollum, and, obviously it was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand, and, Gandalf tells Frodo that it's probably Bilbo's pity that is going to be a big factor in what happens. And Gandalf ends up getting proved right, as we know. And he's like, I wish the ring had never come to me, and that whole thing from the movie happens in the Mines of Moria, but in the book, it's in chapter 2, towards the beginning here. And Frodo's like, well, can't we? Do we have to go throw it into the cracks of doom? Can't we find some other kind of fire to do it? And Gandalf's like, no, it can only be destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom. Not even dragon fire could harm the One Ring of Power. Not even Encalagon the Black. And if you remember, Encalagon the Black was the big dragon that Morgoth unleashed at the end of the First Age in the War of Wrath that Eärendil slew, and Encalagon's fall caused Thangorodrim to break, which caused a great big earthquake, and all of Beleriand was sunk below the sea. And of course, the chapter ends with them discovering that Sam's been listening to them, and Gandalf's like, okay, well, to punish you, you're going with Frodo. Which Sam's all happy about, because he gets to see the elves. And that's the end of chapter 2. So, I don't think I left anything out, but anyway, that is all for today. I will be back with another video, which is chapter 3, which I got read good lord, I can't talk today, which I read already, so that is forthcoming. So until then, I will catch you all later. Have a good day, and I hope you enjoy this video. Thanks.